Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode dives into how AI is reshaping marketing and brand storytelling. Our guest is Eric Blankenship, founder and CEO of Mindstone Marketing, where he helps businesses blend strategy, creativity, and technology to drive real growth. We'll explore how AI is changing the balance between data and creativity, what smart adoption looks like, and how marketers can stay authentic while scaling with automation. Eric, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much for reaching out to me.
Yeah. So tell me your story. How did you start doing what you're doing now? How did you get into marketing?
Yeah, so interestingly, I was one of those kids growing up, I always wanted to be an architect. And I wanted to design sports facilities, baseball stadiums, football stadiums, golf courses, and everything in between. But I was also one of those kids that was always trying new things. So it's interesting. So I went to school for the first 2 to 3 years for architecture. And then I kind of thought to myself, what if 10 years goes by and I don't want to be an architect? And I didn't know if my thinking was flawed, but I was thinking, man, if I have an architecture degree, I'm probably an architect. Um, so my other passion was always sports entertainment, but definitely the sports world. So I thought to myself, you know what? I like the idea of marketing. I don't think I called it marketing back then, but I liked advertising and promotions and, consumer psychology and buyer behavior and all those things. So I thought to myself, you know what? If I get a marketing degree, it will hopefully give me some options later because every company does marketing, whether they call it marketing or something else. Maybe they call it PR or promotions or advertising or brand or whatever. So in my mind, I was thinking I'll have a degree that's very flexible and will give me an opportunity to do different things. So fast forward, I got my degree in marketing from the University of South Florida here in Tampa, Florida. And I immediately started working for the Tampa Bay Lightning in marketing. And I was with the Lightning for about 5 years. Then I realized that, and I'm sure it's like this in other industries, but it's definitely like this in sports, that if you're willing to move, you can grow exponentially faster because there's only so many professional sports teams in a market, right? And there's only so many jobs with each one of those. And marketing jobs are few and far between. Like, a sports team might have 20, 30, 40 salespeople and they might have 5 marketing people. So once I came to that realization that I needed to be willing to move to grow faster, the opportunity really exponentially grew for me. So I went to Philadelphia. I worked for a pretty big company in sports entertainment called Comcast Spectacor. So we owned the Flyers, the Sixers, multiple venues, multiple minor league teams. We also owned a ticketing company, a sponsorship company, a food and beverage company, and everything in between. Well, part of that company was this facility management company. So they promoted me after about a year and a half in Philly, and I went to the Seattle market for about 2.5 years. Then they promoted me again to the Portland, Oregon market for another 2.5, 3 years. And then they promoted me again back to Philadelphia. So while I went to the Northwest, I worked for arenas and facilities. We also had sports teams there, whether it was NBA basketball or minor league hockey or anything in between. But then when they sent me back to Philadelphia, I became the vice president of marketing for the Philadelphia 76ers, which was a great opportunity for me. At the time, I think I was the youngest marketing VP in the NBA when I got that opportunity. And I was there for about 3 years. Fast forward, left, came back to Tampa, Florida. And honestly, I wanted to find a way back to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I still kept a lot of relationships at the Lightning. Ownership changed, leadership changed. There was a lot of opportunity that was coming to that organization, and I wanted to be part of it. As you probably know, timing is everything. There wasn't an opportunity for me to go back to the Lightning, but I was back in Tampa. I became the chief marketing officer for Ruth Eckerd Hall, which is, most people wouldn't know this, but it's a top 10 performing arts center in the industry in terms of number of events and ticket sales. We were doing over 400 events a year at multiple venues, and it was a great experience. First time I was out of sports, but it gave me a lot of experience doing other things. Then I got the call from the Lightning that said, "Hey, do you want to be our VP of marketing?" I was like, "Heck yes, this is what I came back for." I just had to wait 3 years for it. And became the VP of marketing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Tampa Bay Lightning was a big job. I was there for just over 5 years. We went through a period that we called internally the transformation of the brand. Because for those people that know, the Lightning were one of those franchises that had some success, but had fallen in hard times on and off the ice. But with new ownership, new leadership, new team members, there was a real opportunity to make an impact and make a difference. And I was very fortunate to be part of that team that really transformed that brand into one of the best brands, not only in hockey, but in all of sports. In fact, in 2016, ESPN named us the number one franchise in all of sports, and that was 122 teams at the time based on a number of different criteria. But again, it was an awesome opportunity to really, from a professional standpoint, kind of implement everything I'd ever learned in the decades before that in marketing. And it was great. Now comes the life change. My wife and I are fortunate to have two young kids at the time who were starting to get very, very active doing a lot of different things. And if you know anything about the sports and entertainment industry, it's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's early mornings, late nights, 7 days a week, holidays. It's a lot and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. But it takes a toll from a family perspective. The reality is I was going to start missing things. And I kind of thought to myself, do I really want to stay in this industry another 10 years? Kids now move out and away. Am I really going to be happy that I got to work all those extra hours and missed out on so many different things? And I didn't
Yeah.
think I would be. So for me, I looked at it professionally. I kind of did everything I was ever going to do in marketing in my mind, right or wrong, good or bad. I was able, through my marketing career, I was able to create a brand from nothing. I was able to repair a broken brand. I was able to take a really, really good brand and make it even better. I was able to transform a brand into something completely new, different, and better. So professionally, I really thought I kind of did everything I was ever going to do. Couple that with the fact that I don't want to miss my kids growing up. So it's time for me to get out of sports and entertainment. Um, Fortunately, timing's everything. I was kind of recruited away um, right about that same time that I was kind of thinking and feeling that way. And it was an opportunity to join an organization here locally that was it was actually three different companies. It was a real estate development company. They were developing a mixed use 50-acre development right by downtown, but it also had a really big food and entertainment venue. And it also had a restaurant group that had about a dozen different restaurants in that group. So it was really an opportunity for me to do something marketing related, but different. But full disclosure, they paid me more and I worked less. And that was a nice combination, right? Um, so I did that for almost a year. COVID hits, changes the world. And you know what? That was an opportunity. I kind of told my wife, I'm like, they just hired me, 9, 10 months ago. They're comping me pretty well. And we're shut down. No revenues coming in. There's just expenses everywhere. I knew we were going to lay off a bunch of people. And again, I'm an open book. And I told my wife, you know what? There's no way I'm going to make it to a year. And there's special bonuses and incentives that came with the year. And I was like, it's probably not going to happen. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. Because at that time, we're like, there's bigger problems in the world than that. We'll figure it out. Well, again, COVID hits, things shut down, and there's no end in sight, if you remember. It's like, oh my gosh, this is
Oh, yeah.
DEFCON 5, right? The zombie apocalypse is going to happen, right? So fortunately, Florida took a little bit of a different angle on all that, but still some businesses did not. But I kind of looked at it as, you know what? No one's hiring in sports and entertainment, at least. And that's where all my experience, all my skills, all my successes were. So what am I going to do? And I said, well, I don't know how much I have going for me, but I have a lot of relationships. And I've been very fortunate to really not only develop these relationships, but I've always tried to grow them all the time. Even relationships where I'm like, I don't know from a professional standpoint how useful this relationship is, but you never know. So I was always someone that continued to grow relationships. So I thought to myself, I'm going to go do my own thing. And some of it was I kind of needed to do something. And some of it was, if there's ever a time to do it, now's the time. Because my thinking was this, and I was guessing a little bit, but I was trying to think logically. And I thought, if you have a business, unless you're making a decision to shut down forever, you're done. COVID shut you down and you're done forever. You're coming back. So why not use this time to really reevaluate what you're doing from a business standpoint and more specifically marketing standpoint. So I came in with the idea when I was pitching certain prospects, you know, why don't we use this time wisely? Let's look at what are you doing well? What aren't you doing well? What are you not doing at all? And let's
Mhm.
really take a look at that, almost like a marketing audit. I don't think I ever used that word, but that's kind of what it was.
Yep.
Um, and then that usually dovetailed directly and let's take a look at your brand. Now is a good time to really look at your brand because it's interesting. So many businesses, and a lot of my clients are entrepreneurial startups, small and maybe medium-sized business. So I'm not working Fortune 500 companies, right? But a lot of these companies that are bootstrapped and they finally get it off the ground and they're running, brand isn't something they always think about right away. They're thinking about the operation side, the finance side, and that's fine. I get it. I understand it. But let's really take a look at your brand. And what I mean by that is who you are and what you do probably isn't all that dramatically different than some other business. Unless
Mhm.
you have something that's so unique and so different, whatever you're doing, someone else is probably doing it. So what's important there? Why do you matter? What makes you different? What makes you special? What's your special sauce, right? And then let's really hone in on that and focus on that. And let's make sure that the messaging is tight, it's consistent. And now we're communicating it across every single thing that you do from a marketing standpoint. Let's get the brand in a really good place so we feel good about what we're doing. And then that dovetails every single time in strategic planning and budgeting. Okay, let's put together now a strategy that we can go to market so that when the doors open, you hit the ground running, right? So that is kind of how I started my own thing. And I hit 5 years, maybe a couple months ago. So I guess that's a good sign that I've still been doing it for 5 years. But that's my story. So, 80% of what everyone else knows about me right there brings me right up to speed in present day.
Wow. So I'd love to know how you got into that first job, like, it sounds like right out of school. Like, can you
Yeah.
give a 1 minute, like, primer on how you managed to get.
So it's interesting that you asked me that because it's very unconventional. So that was at a time where internships weren't as formal as they are now, right? A lot of times
Mhm.
internships, you apply for them, you get school credit, you get paid. Back then that wasn't the case. So I was in my last year at USF getting my degree, and I told myself, you know what? I want to work at that arena and I want to work for that hockey team. That's what I want to do. I literally walked in the administrative office, didn't know anyone, and I'm like, hey, I'm a student at USF. Can I help anybody do anything? Fortunately for me, someone walked by. I'm like, you can help me. So for the next year, I spent all my free time at that arena and working for that team in with anyone that would let me help them. So I helped in operations, I helped in finance. I learned I did not want to be in operations and finance, but I helped in promotions, I helped in marketing. So I was going to school full time. I was working a full-time job, and any extra time I was at the arena just hanging out, hoping I could help someone. So then a year goes by and an entry-level position opens up. And they're like, "Hey Eric, do you want it?" I'm like, well, yeah, I want it, but I'm still in school. I don't even have my degree yet. They're like, it doesn't matter, which set the course for me, my critical thinking a little bit. And I'm like, it doesn't matter yet. No, we know you. You've been working hard this whole time. You get along with everyone. Yeah, the job is yours if you want it. So I got the job I wanted out of college while I was technically still in college. And then for the next 6 months, I believe, on my lunch breaks and at night, whenever I could, I'd go to my classes and finish up and get my marketing degree. So I actually had that job before, and that kickstarted everything for me,
That's
just
a
getting my foot
fantastic
in the door.
story. That's a great story. I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about sort of where you are now.
Yep.
So you've mentioned that AI is rewriting the game in marketing, particularly when it comes to personalization while maintaining trust. So how do you define effective personalization with through AI that builds trust rather than feeling like creepy?
Oh my
How does
gosh.
that work?
So here's what's interesting, right? Think I was having this discussion the other day with somebody. When we talk about AI today, think about just 2 years ago
Yeah.
how we were talking about AI and how we were using AI. It was almost non existent to the masses, right? It's amazing how much has happened in just about 2 years of
Yes,
this
it is.
new world that AI is available to you. And let's be honest, AI has been around prior to 2 years ago. It just
Mhm.
wasn't available to everybody, right? Now it's readily available. So it's interesting because I sit here now today, and when you read a post, let's say on LinkedIn, you can sometimes pick out the AI, right? You can pick it out. But there's a lot of stuff you can't pick out, and it's AI, right? And I think, if we fast forward, maybe it's only 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Where are we going to be then? I mean, again, it's crazy to think 2 years ago I didn't know that I could basically film my own video of myself and my voice and do the whole thing with AI and none of it be me at all. And we can do
Yeah.
that today. So I don't know if it's going to get to the point where you're going to be able to tell. I don't think it is. I think it's going to get to the point where you're just not going to be able to tell anymore. And I think the real question is, where is the authenticity going to come from at that point? So again, I'm biased in saying this. I put a tremendous amount of value in my day-to-day world, especially professionally, and in-person meetings with my clients or prospects. There's a lot of times where, they may want a phone call or a Zoom call or something like that. And if that's the only option, great. But my first inclination is always to do everything in person because that is slowly becoming the only thing we have left is that in-person interaction. Again, if you go back to COVID time, not that Zoom wasn't a thing back then, but it wasn't outright replacing meetings anymore. Now, you may have a Zoom meeting with someone that's 15 minutes away from you, right?
Mhm.
Just because it's easy and convenient for everybody.
Yep.
So I put a lot of value in that in-person connection as much as I possibly can. And again, AI is going to continue to replace everything. I mean, if you try and think about what is it not going to replace, there's not a lot of things it can't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where we go as a society with just trusting what you see anywhere. Um, you know, uh, it's absolutely changing the game. Um, but so in your view, which human marketing, I don't know, competencies are most elevated by AI, and how should marketing teams use those as opposed to the things that AI really shouldn't be doing or you don't want them to do?
Well, I think it's a little twofold, right? Because if you're a smaller business and you have limited resources being people, money, time, and effort, right?
Hmm.
AI can be a game changer for you. It absolutely
Sure.
can. You can now go produce that commercial that might have cost 3, 5, 15, 20, $25,000. You can go produce it now for a fraction of not only money, but time. Now, if you're that business that in the past couldn't afford that, that's a big win. It's a huge win. And even if you do it now, depending on how you're doing it and what platform you're using, all that, it may still come off as AI, but is that the worst thing in the world? Because at least, because before the option was you do nothing. So now if you do something, maybe it's 80% good enough, right?
Yep.
Because AI isn't 100% there yet, but I think it will be. I don't think it's that far. It's like anything. I think, it's so interesting to me. I think I see the 80-20 rule play out in life so many different ways. And maybe I manifested to the point where the 80-20 rule makes sense. But I almost feel like AI is 80% there now. The last 20% I think is going to be tough. I think it's much easier to get from 1 to 80 than it's going to be to get from 80 to 100%. At least I'm hoping. But I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of those small, medium-sized businesses and entrepreneurial startups that just don't have the resources to do what the big companies have been doing for years. Now, with that being said, I'm a marketing guy, so I'm biased on what I'm going to say, but brand is everything, right? That belief, that trust that someone has in your brand is paramount to everything. So what does that mean? Well, better or for worse, I mean, you can get AI to replace so much of the operational side of your business now. You can get it to replace the marketing side of your business now. It goes back to what I said before, what's left? That human connection might be the only thing that's left. That relationship that exists, And again, I'm biased in saying this as well, but being in sports and entertainment industry, I've seen so many relationships get started, develop, and strengthened at sporting events and live events. Like people coming together that you didn't know that you had a common interest with someone, but now you do have a common interest. And now two people are getting connected somehow, some way through that sports team or that performance or that show or whatever it might be. That human connection, I think, still matters. I think people are going to still want that human connection, that interaction. In fact, if I'm going the other way with it, as everything gets desensitized more and more and more, it's very possible that that human connection is going to be valued even more than what it already is now, right? So I think that is something to look forward to, that I still think relationships matter. I absolutely do. Now, and then if you can use AI to help scale that business, that's a bonus. But, I still fall back on, I've been a big believer in relationships my whole career. I think in the business world, it's going to mean more and more and more.
Wow. Awesome. Well, I do agree with you on the interpersonal relationships and the face to face, the connection there. So I'm curious, what do you want people who might hire you to know about you and your business? What sets you apart?
Well, so I've always been someone, again, for better or for worse, I'm very open on what I say and how I say. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have your own company right now, and let's say you have a marketing team in place, right? That marketing team at the end of the day works for that company and reports to that president, that COO, that CEO, whomever. The reality of it is, because I've been in this situation before, you may be outspoken and honest and truthful, but at the end of the day, you want to keep your job and you need to fall in line at some point. You can deviate a little bit, but there's only so much deviation that can happen. So for me, where I've found a little bit of a sweet spot is, and I've done this for entrepreneurial startups, and I've done it for organizations that have marketing departments. But I've been able to come in, whether it's whatever they want to call it, a consulting opportunity or a coaching opportunity or a mentorship or whatever they want to call it, kind of doesn't matter to me. But I'm able to come in, evaluate certain things, whether it's processes and initiatives or whether it's people in some cases. And because I'm not an employee of yours, I can be honest and I can tell you exactly the good, the bad, and the ugly with no filter because there's no real recourse for me. right? I'm not a paid employee that's has to kind of fall in line. So I've had a lot of, people that I've worked with that have appreciated the candor to be able to say, hey, this is good, this is bad, this is what we should be doing, this is what we should be doing. And I'll give you an example. Um, I worked, it's kind of a funny example, but I had a client, husband and wife, obviously married, lived together, go home together, go to work together, started their own company. They were working on their own company for at least 2 years before I got there. And
Mm,
they brought me in for a couple different reasons. One, they were kind of both doing marketing on their own in addition to everything else they're doing. So what does that mean? Marketing's the thing that's not being done very well. Right? It's
mhm.
it's third, fourth, fifth on the list of things to do. And I get it. I understand that. But they wanted me to come in and really evaluate the brand and really dovetail immediately into a new website, which is fine. I can do that. But as we were talking and having these conversations about the company and the brand and all these different things, and I'll fast forward this conversation, come to find out that neither one of them liked the colors that were in their logo. Something that simple. Neither one of them liked the logo. And neither one of them really liked the name of the company. And
And neither one of
meanwhile,
them
I'm
ever
thinking
said
there's
that.
only two of you. You guys live together and work together. Each one thought the other one was more in love with all of it than the other one really was. So it took a completely different perspective to come in and say, look, guys, we need to get on the same page from a visual identity piece first, right? And then we were able to do all these other things, right? Because sometimes some founders, some owners, some presidents, some COOs, they're so close or they're so distracted by so many different things. They need someone else to come in and give them a completely different or fresh perspective on things. And again, I've been very fortunate in my career. I've worked for some amazing brands and I've been in a lot of different situations, like I told you before, of transforming brands, rebuilding brands, developing brands, and everything in between, that I can come in and really give a very educated and experienced insights into how they're doing their business from a marketing standpoint. So that's kind of what I've leaned on a lot, right? And again, some clients will call me a fractional CMO, fractional VP of marketing, whatever they want to do. It's funny, I had one client, I was a fractional CMO for them. I was only working, I'll be honest with you, maybe 10, 15 hours a week on that client. They introduced me to their entire staff as their CMO. They gave me an office. They gave me business cards. They gave me an email address.
Wow.
And outside of the like maybe top three or four people that knew I was just a fractional guy working from home, everyone else thought I was the new CMO. I mean, that's how they introduced me in the company. And I think part of it is they wanted me to really get in the weeds in a lot of different areas. And that was
Mhm.
one way to do it. And it worked. So I get it. So for me, it's really, I enjoy the consulting piece. It's just an opportunity for me to really dive in a little bit and hopefully help an organization either A, get back on track or go faster, run better, right? Anything to that degree.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Eric, it's been truly a pleasure having you on the show. I loved your story. And, maybe we'll see you around on another podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.